I did actually, because right after the first movie I was writing short stories for a collection of short stories, and there was a seed of this movie in one of those stories. There was a breakup and the feeling of wanting to stop time. That short story it wasn't a good one, you know, many of them are not. And that idea carried into a performance that I did that I was pretty happy with. It had a talking cat, it had a dance in a shirt, and a whole lot of other things that are not in this movie. And eventually I realized that I was kind of interested in what these elements would be like in a less avant-garde context, you know? Like none of those things are that surprising in, you know, a theater space, you know? But if I could pull them off in a very narrative, you know, somewhat conservative realm, you know, a movie that would try to have theatrical release, that felt like a real challenge to me. So I took, yeah, so that's just by way of answering the question. Sometimes I just don't know, and but if I'm interested enough, I'm sort of willing to follow the idea through different mediums. Yeah, just the case of this one. Yes?
First off, I just want to say beautiful work of art and very well paced. So my question is this is a two-part question, if you don't mind. Was this your own metaphor for what you perceive life to be, what we see individually, all the struggles and all the good things and everything in between? And what was your motivation for writing this piece?
Well, I mean, there's a couple motivations, because there's sort of two characters with each their own story. But I guess closest to my heart, probably, and to the origin of making the movie was my character's story. I think all the things that Sophie does, my character does, are the things I fear most in myself. That I'll get stuck making something, and that I just will get stuck so badly that I have to sort of break up with myself in a way. And so I thought, okay, if you're going to be afraid of this, if you're going to spend this much time worrying about this over the course of your life, let's follow it through. Like, it's sort of embarrassing, especially to do in public, but like, what would happen then? So you are so disappointed in yourself that you don't even want to be yourself, then what? You know, how would you try to sort of flee your own soul, or your own having to try, you know? And would it be possible? And I don't think it would. I think you would come crawling after yourself. Some essential part of yourself would always haunt you.
Your motivations including a lot of like apocalyptic themes in this one?
Yeah, I know. I guess I was noticing really just in the last, 5 to 10 years, that I used to think of the future as just like everything's going to be like, go on like this forever, and that somehow, just through a combination of, I guess, like environmental catastrophe, and maybe sort of vague, you know, technology stuff, my sense of the future had changed. Primarily, I sort of was somewhat filled with less hope. I just wasn't sure that it would be like this, you know, for my children's children or whatever. And it just seemed like, well, that's a weird thing to happen over the course of a few years. You know, like, that's a pretty big thing to have change that's like almost not even worth talking about. You know, it's just like the sky or something. So that's a hard thing to get across in a movie, and I don't know that I did that very well. But I was trying, and certainly that sort of that wrecking ball scene, you know, you know, just kind of going straight at it, you know, for a moment. Okay.
You had written some parts for people. Were you aware of any of the folks in the film, particularly the older man, or they just came to you from the casting process?
Right, I didn't write for anyone except the old man, whose name is Joe, came in a weird way. I was already pretty far along, pretty close to making the movie, except I was stuck in terms of the financing, and I took a break and just decided to do something completely unrelated, which was interview people selling things through the penny saver classifieds. In my mind, it was sort of kind of connected to like the recession and the reality of like, what, you know, I'm supposed to be given $1 million to make my movie, like why, you know, and trying to just, I think I was lonely also a little bit, and Joe was one of the people I met, and that's his house, and that's his clothes, and those are his cards with his dirty limericks he wrote himself. And he was very actively preparing for the end of his life. He was like, you know, literally kind of going down his to-do list of stuff he wanted to do before he died. And kind of unconsciously, that was changing me. Like just meeting him changed my sense of time, which seemed so much to have to do with the movie. Plus, there were all these really weird synchronicities, like he met his wife 62 years ago at Lake Paw Paw. You know, things that were too on the nose to even put in the movie. You know, it just seemed like bad writing. But I tried to, in a very kind of clunky visual way, have Jason have that feeling of resonance, where there shouldn't be resonance, and so therefore you stop and you think like, well, what is, you know, why is this in my life? Why did I meet this person? You know, and he's looking, and as I think I was, and then also just working with someone at the end of their life. It changes the whole, you know, it's a different perspective than two 35-year-olds. And he passed away right after I had finished the movie, the day after. And it's like amazing to intersect in such an intense way at just the very last moment. And we should all be so lucky as to, that was him at the end of his life, you know? It was a good too. Yes?
I was wondering what the approach to your directing is, like, especially like working with the other actors in the film, especially your boyfriend there.
Oh, where did I get them, or what did I do?
How your process of
how I work with them. Yeah, and just to answer your question, it was through a casting director, that I found them. And my process doesn't sound very good. I'm always really inspired when directors talk about improvisation and cool games and exercises and stuff, but I'm pretty glued to my own writing, and we did rehearse, which was nice. I didn't get to do that on the last one, but we had fewer shooting days actually. So I mean, that rehearsal basically just allowed us to move through it quickly enough. And I'm the kind of annoying director that, like, you know, points out like, oh, you forgot the comma. There's a comma there after the. So you just, and then you write, like, and it's just not that fun. You know, it's like here the actors have been waiting for like this magical experience, you know, and I'm pretty controlling. Maybe I would be different if there was more time, but I feel like I'm just trying to get, at bare minimum, the thing that I had in my head for so long. And then I'm lucky in that they don't do that always. And then in the editing room, I'm like, thank the Lord that Hamish, did that thing that at the time I didn't understand. I mean, it's definitely, despite me, a collaboration. Yeah.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Yes.
Can you talk about how you use subject matter technology in your storytelling? A lot of times when you hear like Facebook, it feels very weird. And
Right.
it doesn't with your stuff.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay. That's to me. I'm like, oh, why say the word Facebook when you could just not? Yeah, it's like I don't even, I'm not that interested in technology. And yet, kind of like the stuff about the sense of the future changing, it does confound me that it's so much a part of my life. Like I just didn't foresee, when I was, say, in college, that my whole adult life was going to be, tied to this thing, this computer. I mean, I know it'll be, a gel in a few years or whatever, but the same idea. That's just, and I am a little sad about that, and I'm trying to figure out, I use it all the time, obviously, but, yeah, it's like a thing you have to figure out, kind of like your relationship to your body or something. So it seemed like I had to have it in there. I had to have it in there to have it be realistic, and then I also had to have them get off the internet in order for anything to happen. In order for there to be, for them to feel the void within, which I don't really feel when I'm online, but when I turn it off, I'm like, who am I? Yeah. Okay. Last one here, yes. Oh, I was pointing to him. But
Do you find, your observations about life and as you go through day by day, the way you're drifting as a performance artist, video artist, a filmmaker, a writer, colliding and feeding each other, and how do you separate those, or do they sort of collide and work together?
yeah, they do. The different mediums do work together. I mean, you also get a break from, I don't want to make another movie right now, but I want to make stuff every day. And it helps because, you have different insecurities and different ways that you feel powerful, and there's some things that are really liberating about film, and then some things that aren't. I mean, I think actually, just as an example, if I hadn't come into this movie through performance, I think I would have felt pretty insecure and self-conscious making my second movie, especially after the first one, it made me more aware of people looking at me, which isn't a good thing. It's a good thing for the movie. It's not a good thing for the, person trying to think of their second movie. So it was a great way to feel free. Well, this is a performance. No one's looking over here, at this thing. In fact, most people will not see this performance, and yet it's just as real to me. I worked very hard on it. And so I felt very free. I wasn't thinking about the world of film at all. So sometimes it can work like that. And also there are different speeds, like an art idea or a story can be very quick, and that's great. You shouldn't have to labor over everything in the same way. It's ideas have sort of different densities, I think. So, yes. Okay, so that was the last one. All right, well, thank you. Go into the night.